Hi everybody, welcome to Criminality. Today we're going to be talking about the case of missing mom Leila Cavett. She went missing in 2020 out of Florida, and as of the date of this video, Leila still has not been found. And the person believed to be responsible for her disappearance is currently awaiting trial. Here we go. This case takes us to Miramar, Florida. And more specifically, the Edge Apartments in Miramar, where in the early hours of July 26th of 2020, Ebony Williams found a 2-year-old boy wandering around in the parking lot alone, wearing nothing but a t-shirt and a diaper. No shoes, no pants, nothing. Just a t-shirt and a diaper. And when she asked him where his mommy was, she says he kind of just pointed everywhere, looking for her.
Baby crying. So I walked over and I realized he was by himself. I asked him, where's your mommy? And he kind of just pointed kind of like everywhere. And I reached out my hand for him. He grabbed my hand and I just walked around the complex hoping that I would find somebody looking for him or calling his name.
She goes on to say that she went and knocked on the doors of all the people who were home at the time and was looking for anybody who knew him. One lady did offer to change his diaper, and then ultimately she ends up having to call the police because nobody recognizes this little boy. When police arrived, they started to canvass the apartments and the nearby apartments as well, going door to door, passing out flyers. They took to social media and made posts with the little boy's photo in hopes that somebody would recognize him. The post reached all the way across the country, including to a young lady named Gina Lewis in Alabama, who immediately recognized the little boy as her nephew, her sister's son, Camden. This obviously raised a lot of questions. One, her sister, Leila Cavett, and her 2-year-old son, Camden, lived in Georgia. So what were they doing in Florida? And two, where was Leila? How did Camden get to the Edge Apartments by himself? So who is Leila Cavett? Leila Cavett was born on December 14th of 1999 to her mom Tina Kirby and her dad Curtis Cavett. She was mostly raised in Alabama but had a lot of family in Georgia and Ohio. She had 3 sisters and 1 brother who she mostly remained in contact with. Besides, when she was younger, she had kind of fallen in with a bad crowd and started using drugs and things like that, so that kind of distanced her from her siblings for a short time. But then Leila found out that she was pregnant by a guy that she didn't know very well, but she decided she was going to keep the baby, and she raised Camden as a single mom. And her family was very supportive and would go on to say what a phenomenal mom she was, and how lucky she was to have Camden because it changed the whole trajectory of her life.
Camden definitely changed her life. One thing I can say about my sister is she has been a great mother to Camden.
And although Leila wasn't employed at the time, her family would help support her, and she would either stay with her family or her friends while trying to get on her feet. After getting in an argument with one of her friends that she was staying with, she decided to pack up her stuff and move to Georgia from Alabama. She was going to stay with family there, and she ended up getting a job at Dunkin', and things seemed to be going really well for her in Georgia. So how did Leila end up in Florida? On July 17th, 2020, Leila was FaceTiming with one of her sisters, and she said they were on for about an hour. Leila mentioned no plans to go to Florida.
I FaceTimed her on July 17th. We were on the phone for about an hour and she was fine. She didn't have any plans to come to Florida, so we're very confused right now.
But Leila's uncle said that Leila had mentioned going to Florida, but he kind of just thought it was, at some point in life and didn't really take her very seriously. Leila's uncle would say, Leila didn't really have any money, and you have to remember this was in the middle of 2020, which was amidst a global pandemic. Why would Leila just be up and taking her 2-year-old son to Florida where she knew nobody?
She's been spending a lot of time with my brother since she's been in Georgia, and she had mentioned in passing to him, I'm gonna go to Florida, and he just thought she was playing because he knew that, she didn't have any money to get to Florida.
Leela had reached out to Camden's dad and asked him for some money, which he had ultimately sent to a local Walmart where she was able to pick it up. She'd also gotten $40 from her uncle, and she took to Facebook Marketplace and was selling some of her own personal items, including her vehicle, in a post where she states that she needs to actually get an SUV in order to haul items for her work.
I do know for a fact that my brother had given her $40. And then we had saw that she was making posts in the days before selling things on Facebook Marketplace. So we think that there's a possibility she was using that outlet to raise gas money. But we know for a fact that she had only gas money.
On one particular post where Leila was selling headphones, you could actually see the other tabs that were open on her computer, and one was a dating app. This led her family and social media sleuths to assume or presume that she may have gone to Florida to meet somebody from this app.
It was a screenshot of a post that she had made. And then on the top of her phone, in one of her tabs, you can see a dating app.
As soon as Gina recognized her nephew Camden, she contacted her other two sisters, and they immediately drove from Alabama to Florida. And shortly after, Leila's mom, dad, and brother would come as well.
And I just want you to know that I love you. I'm here down here. He's everything to her. Camden is her life. That's her love of her life. She is never going to leave him. Ever.
The family and law enforcement would make pleas to the public looking for any information on Leila's whereabouts. She was last seen driving a 1990s Chevy 3500 extended cab truck with a maroon tailgate. There was also a baby on board decal in the window.
Leila is approximately 5 feet 4 inches tall, weighing about 120 pounds. Leila has her son's name, Camden, tattooed on her right inner arm and a Jesus fish tattooed on her right wrist.
The family and the local community would start hanging signs sharing the description of Leila and the truck that she was driving in hopes that someone would recognize her or the missing vehicle. Law enforcement started to go to all the local businesses to check all their security cameras and were able to actually locate some very important footage that detailed the last days before Camden had been found and Leila was reported missing. On July 24th of 2020, Leila had left her home in Dawsonsville, Georgia, and drove 9 hours south to Vero Beach, Florida, where she's seen on surveillance at a Cracker Barrel, and she does have Camden with her. And Leila continues south to Hollywood, Florida, where she is seen on camera a few times at the racetrack convenience store. On the first video clip, you can see that she arrives to the store driving her truck. But the second clip is very interesting because she's seen getting out of a silver-colored Lexus. Now, at this time, she's wearing shorts and a tank top, and she goes into the convenience store alone. She does not have Camden in the store with her. She pays for her items, and she returns back to the Lexus. Now, later that same day of July 25th, she's seen on camera again at the convenience store, now wearing a dress and holding Camden. Sadly, this video would actually become the last known sighting of Leila Cavett. And after July 26th, when Camden was found in the parking lot of the Edge Apartments, there was a nationwide bolo that was put out for Leila Cavett and her vehicle. And through their investigation, law enforcement was able to actually locate the truck in a Walmart parking lot in Hollywood, Florida. When they approached the truck, the driver's side window was down and the truck had been emptied. They decided to set up surveillance on the truck and see if anybody approached the vehicle. And lo and behold, on July 28th, somebody did approach the truck. Somebody driving a silver Lexus. The individual that was approaching was carrying a large black garbage bag and began rummaging through the bed of the truck. He also went through the driver's side door and was looking inside of the truck. The two detectives approached him, and he simply said, "Oh, it runs. I just bought it from my friend Leila Cavett." The individual was soon identified as Shannon Ryan, who was a self-proclaimed witch doctor who utilized social media to teach others his craft, who said that he had known Leila Cavett from Alabama and that she had come to South Florida particularly to sell him her truck. And per Ryan, all the communications with Miss Cavett was through Facebook Messenger. He stated that Leela and her son Camden had arrived on Saturday at about 2:30, in which he gave her the cash for the truck. He told the detectives that he and Leela and Camden had gone and had food and went down to the beach where Leela and Camden played and he worked out. He told the detectives that he and Leela had had sexual intercourse while Camden was asleep in the back of the vehicle. He tells the detectives that on the evening of July 25th, that Leela, Camden, and himself had picked up some Cheesecake Factory to go and returned to the Walmart parking lot, which was located very close to the racetrack convenience store. He says while they were there hanging out, they were approached by two black men driving a black sedan who called Leela by her name and asked if she wanted to come with them because they wanted to go party. Shannon says at that point that Leela took Camden out of the car and got into the sedan with the other two individuals, and that was the last he saw of her. Surveillance footage obtained from the racetrack would later prove that was a lie, and there was no footage of Leela getting into any other vehicle at any point. The detectives asked for permission to search the Lexus and to look through Shannon Ryan's phone, which he did agree to, but stated that the Lexus was actually registered to one of his students, and the phone was under the name of his girlfriend, who was currently in the hospital having dialysis. Law enforcement did later confirm that both of those things were true. With Mr. Ryan's permission, they did do a thorough search of the Lexus in the parking lot. They then asked him to send a message to Leila Cavett letting her know that he had changed his mind about the truck and he no longer wanted it and he would be leaving the keys inside the cab. After this request, Shannon obliged and sent the message and didn't seem upset that he would be losing out on all the money he had just paid Leila for the truck. He let the detectives know that he would be happy to speak to them again if they needed any further information and went on his way. Law enforcement continued their investigation in what happened to missing mom Leila Cavett and went and pulled as much surveillance around the Edge apartments as they could. In doing so, they located video of a silver Lexus that matched the description of the one that Shannon was driving that had pulled up to the Edge apartments at about 8:22 in the morning, pulling behind a tree, and then driving away at 8:29. 13 minutes before surveillance caught Camden on camera with Ebony Williams, the woman who had located him in the parking lot. The detectives also located videos that showed Shannon Ryan coming to and leaving the racetrack multiple times, and on one occasion, Ryan is seen pulling Leela's truck next to the dumpster and continuously bringing items from the truck to the dumpster, including what appeared to be a heavy black trash bag. He is also seen on video shoving towels that appear to have a red substance on them into the trash cans. And when interviewed, one of the employees stated that when they had gotten to throw their trash away, they had noticed children's toys and women's clothing inside the dumpster. When the detective showed the employee a photo of Leela, the employee recognized the floral pants that she was wearing in the photo as an item of clothing they had seen in the dumpster. More footage was located of Shannon Ryan from July 26th, where he was actually seen inside of the Walmart shopping center. He was purchasing heavy-duty 39-gallon trash bags and 2 boxes of carpet odor eliminator. He left the store but returned about 15 minutes later. He was then seen purchasing a roll of duct tape. More footage was located of Shannon Ryan in the area throughout the 26th, July 27th, and July 28th, and on all of those occasions there was no sign of Leila Cavett. The detectives reached back out to Shannon Ryan and asked if he would be willing to meet up with them again to talk more about where Leila could possibly be. And Shannon said unfortunately he was meeting with a student at the time and he would be unable to, but he would be okay with meeting them back at that same Walmart parking lot the next day on July 29th to give them any information they might need. So before the meeting the following day, the detectives called just to confirm with Shannon that he was going to be showing up for this meeting, and Shannon did not answer his phone. So the detectives decided to use license plate readers across the state to see where he could possibly be. They find that he's actually much further north and obviously has no intention of meeting them at any Walmart parking lot at 9 a.m. And law enforcement continued to use the license plate readers to track Ryan as he drove from Florida over to Texas. And on August 3rd, the detectives met with the FBI to ask if they would get involved. Investigators had towed Leila's truck from the Walmart parking lot to have it forensically tested, and upon doing so, they actually realized that the driver's side window was not just down, it was actually broken, and that the driver's side visor was bent out of its ordinary position. And 2 shovels were recovered from the truck that had small droplets of a red substance on them, so they were sent off to be forensically tested as well. The detectives began to interview people who were acquaintances or friends of Shannon Ryan, and one in particular told law enforcement that he'd actually seen Shannon on July 26th, and Shannon was offering to sell him Leela's truck for $1,000, which obviously raises red flags, seeing as how he supposedly just paid $3,000 for it the day before. At the time of Leela's disappearance, Shannon DeMar Ryan was 38 years old and was technically homeless. He was actually living out of that Lexus that belonged to one of his students. He was also very familiar with law enforcement and the prison system itself, as he had served many years in prison for multiple felonies. And he states when he was in prison was when his official transformation into the god that he is today happened. He seemed to enjoy all the new followers he was getting on his social media pages based on the fact that Leela was missing, and people wanted to know what he knew and what happened to Leela. He enjoyed taunting them on his social media and making fun of them, calling them idiots, and just provoking people in general. And Shannon used his social media following to do live videos to tell the world his connection with Leila Cavett and what really happened to Leela and how he had nothing to do with it.
It's a beautiful day outside, enjoying the day after Lion Gates 9, so I'm born, birth into existence. Today, I want to talk about Leila Cavett, or Cavett, who she is and what my connection is to her. You know, Leila's missing right now. And I just want to say this. Why is it the only connection that you made between me and Leila Cavett is the one that I posted? You know, I see some people show up on my post and say some real ignorant ass shit. Real ignorant ass shit. We have a missing woman. And I gave the police everything that I know. Everything. He's guilty. Why? He has felonies. He did things in the past. Yeah, I did some burglary when I was younger. And, I sold drugs when I was younger. And, I went to prison too. See, that was the dirt that I grew up out of. That made me the God that I am today. Because I'm a black man, right? And I'm a criminal. And I was the last one to see the girl. So automatically, I got something to do with it. Thank you, America. Prove my point. Never mind what I've been doing for the last 6 years of my life since I've been out of prison. Never mind the time, the energy, and the effort that I've dedicated to helping people, healing people.
He continues this video for approximately an hour, where he goes into talking about how he met Leela in Alabama a little over a year prior when he was living there with his girlfriend, and how they had stayed in contact on and off throughout that time, and that he thought that she was going to be coming to Florida to help him with his business and to sell him this truck. He tells his viewers the same story that he had told the police about, that him and Leela had returned to the racetrack and that she had taken Camden and gotten in a sedan with 2 black men and had gone off to party, and he thought she'd be back based on their history together, and she just never showed back up. He also chooses to utilize his social media to essentially taunt the FBI about arresting him or even wanting to speak with him. He even goes as far as to post screenshots of a conversation that he's having with somebody who says they're with the FBI, and he tells the public, hey, if you have any information, here's FBI agent Willie's personal cell number, give him a call. And in the messages, he states that if they have a warrant, he will comply. If they just want to talk to him, he will invoke his right to remain silent. That they're going to his family members, his friends, his mentors, and his apprentices, defaming him, and he will not stand for it. So only to reach out to him again if they are actually ready to arrest him, and then he's ready to go sit in whatever jail they choose, but will still invoke his right to remain silent. Shannon stayed in Texas for about a week, and then social media sleuths started tracking his Facebook check-ins for the locations that he was traveling as he actually made his way back to Florida. He stops in Fort Lauderdale, where he actually makes a Facebook post where he's essentially telling the FBI that he's also investigating them and that he can hear everything that they're saying. He posts a picture of himself in front of a shopping center just to let everybody know where he actually is. And the investigators don't hesitate to act. On August 15th, a federal search warrant was executed on the iPhone that Shannon Ryan was using and currently had in his possession. In the forensic extraction of the iPhone, it revealed some Google searches from July 26th. One from 12:01 a.m., where a search was done for what day does commercial garbage pick up for Hollywood, Florida? Another search done at 1:45 a.m., does bleach and alcohol make chloroform? Another federal warrant was executed that same day on the Lexus, and law enforcement located a white powdery substance under the front passenger seat. They also found all-purpose cleaners with bleach and numerous black trash bags inside the vehicle. The agents read Shannon his Miranda rights and sat him down for an interview, where his story about the last time that he saw Leela was the same as it had been back on the 26th when investigators initially had spoke with him. One change in his story, however, was that he was in the area of the Edge Apartments on the morning of the 26th, around the time that Camden was actually left there, but he states he was there because he actually had a flat tire that he needed to change and had nothing to do with Camden being left alone in the apartment complex. The agents knew that this was actually a lie because they had the surveillance cameras from the apartment complex that showed Shannon pulling into the lot and dropping off Camden, and he had been ID'd by his friends and family members on the video. The agents placed Shannon under arrest on 2 federal counts of lying to investigators and for the kidnapping of Camden. While Shannon was being held on the federal charges, investigators still continued their search to find missing mom Leila Cavett. They began with impounding the dumpsters from the racetrack convenience store that Shannon was seen dumping items into, which had included what appeared to be a very large, heavy object in a black trash bag. The search continued to a local landfill, which lasted for days, while the investigators scoured every inch of this landfill to see if they could find any clues on what happened to Leila. And Leila's mom, Tina Kirby, had told local news reporters that the FBI had informed her and the family that they did believe that Leila Cavett was no longer alive. They had asked her for her DNA to compare to any of the DNA that was found throughout the investigation. Tina stated that she wanted to thank the community and the FBI for not giving up until Leila was recovered.
All right, Mr. Ryan, good morning, sir.
Good morning, ma'am.
In the spring of 2021, the FBI dropped the federal charges against Shannon Ryan, and the state of Florida charged him with second-degree murder and tampering with evidence in the disappearance of Leila Cavett, and also with child neglect in the case of Camden. And at the time that Shannon was charged with the second-degree murder of Leila Cavett and the child neglect of Camden, Camden was still actually in state custody at the time. The family had to go through many hurdles in order to be able to prove that Camden was Leila's son, that Leila was their family, and that Camden belonged with them. And thank goodness they were successful, because as of today, that is where he is, with Leila's family, back in Alabama, where they ensure that he never forgets his mom, and he always remembers that his mommy loved him more than anything.